At 25, friendship happened automatically. You met people at work, through neighbors, children, clubs, and ordinary routines. You did not need to maintain a social life. Life kept placing the same people in front of you. Then, almost without anyone noticing, those structures disappeared. One retirement, one move, one illness, one unanswered phone call at a time. The circle became smaller. Eventually, someone wondered, where did everyone go? Imagine two friends named Daniel and Robert. They meet at a manufacturing plant in 1978. At first, they are only co-workers. They eat lunch at the same table because every other seat is taken. They complain about the supervisor and laugh about how neither of them knows what he is doing. A few months later, Daniel helps Robert repair a car. Robert returns the favor by helping Daniel move. Neither man ever says, "We are becoming close friends." The friendship simply happens. They see each other 5 days a week. Their wives meet. Their children grow up together. Cookouts, birthdays, and Saturday repair projects fill the years. There is no need to schedule the friendship. The workplace does the scheduling for them. This was true for many members of Generation Jones. School, jobs, neighborhoods, and parenting repeatedly placed the same people together. Familiarity became trust, and trust became history. Few noticed how much those relationships depended on the environment surrounding them. Daniel and Robert believe their friendship is permanent because it has lasted more than 30 years. Then Robert retires. At first, little seems different. He calls Daniel and promises to meet for breakfast. But the daily contact is gone. The quick conversation near the time clock, the shared lunch, and the last-minute invitation after work. The friendship has not ended. Its structure has. That distinction is easy to miss. People imagine friendships ending through betrayal or conflict. Later in life, many disappear more quietly. Not broken, simply no longer carried by routine. A month passes before Daniel and Robert meet, then 2 months. Daniel thinks about calling, but decides Robert is probably busy. Robert considers calling, but remembers Daniel is still working and does not want to interrupt. Neither feels rejected. Both assume another opportunity will come. Then Daniel retires too. He expects retirement to create more time for friendship. Instead, it removes even more structure. There is no predictable lunch hour, and no reason for their paths to cross accidentally. To see each other now, someone must decide to make it happen. At 25, friendship can survive on proximity. After 60, it often survives on intention. And intention is easily defeated by hesitation. Retirement is only one force reshaping social circles. People move closer to adult children or become caregivers. Health limitations make driving difficult. Hearing loss turns crowded restaurants into exhausting places. Fatigue shortens visits, and financial pressure makes travel less frequent. A friend who once attended every gathering may be managing a private problem no one understands. The invitations continue for a while. Then people stop asking, because they expect the answer will be no. The absent friend notices the silence and assumes everyone moved on. No argument occurs. The connection simply loses oxygen. Daniel experiences this after his wife becomes ill. His days fill with appointments, medication schedules, and household tasks she once handled. Friends call at first, but Daniel keeps the conversations short. He does not want pity. He does not want to become the friend whose life is always heavy. When Robert calls one evening, Daniel sees the name on the phone. He lets it ring, not because he does not want to speak, but because he is exhausted and afraid his voice will reveal too much. He tells himself he will call tomorrow. Tomorrow becomes the following week. The unanswered phone remains between them. Robert interprets the silence differently. Perhaps Daniel needs space. Perhaps calling again would feel intrusive. So Robert waits. This is where the habits of Generation Jones can make friendship loss more complicated. Many were raised to respect privacy, avoid burdening others, and manage problems quietly. Those values can make someone dependable in a crisis. They can also make it difficult to say, "I miss you," "I am lonely," or "I need someone to talk to." Making the first call creates a small emotional risk. What if the other person sounds distracted? What if the friendship mattered more to you than it did to them? What if the silence was not accidental? It feels safer to wait. They assume the friend has family nearby and do not want to interfere. Because the phone remains silent, each receives what appears to be confirmation. The other one has moved on. Years earlier, Daniel and Robert could sit for an hour talking about work, cars, and family news. Their friendship was carried through shared activity. But when the workplace, neighborhood, and children's schedules disappear, someone must finally say, "Let us meet. I was thinking about you. How are you really doing?" For people taught to show care through actions rather than words, that can feel difficult. Months after the unanswered call, Robert finds an old photograph. It shows both men in their 30s beside a car they spent a weekend repairing. Their clothes are dirty. Daniel is laughing at something outside the frame. Robert finds Daniel's number, then he puts the phone down. What he does not know is that Daniel has done the same thing. Daniel has opened Robert's contact several times and wondered whether too much time has passed. Both men miss the friendship. Both believe the other has become distant. Both are waiting. This is the friendship paradox that often appears after 60. Two people can care deeply while each waits for proof that the feeling is still mutual. The silence does not always mean indifference. Sometimes it means uncertainty on both sides. Many friendships do not end because loyalty disappears. They end because the environments supporting them vanish, and neither person recognizes that the relationship now requires a different kind of effort. Later life friendship may be less frequent, but it can become deeper. There may be fewer crowded tables and fewer people who know every part of the story. Yet one honest conversation can carry more value than dozens of automatic encounters. A friendship after 60 may not depend on speaking every day. It may mean resuming a conversation after months, driving someone to an appointment, sitting quietly after a loss, or calling without needing a reason. It becomes intentional because life no longer creates it automatically. Sometimes the first step is one sentence. "I thought about you today." Sometimes it is calling again after the first call was not answered. Not because anyone is owed unlimited access, but because silence can mean many things besides rejection. Daniel eventually makes the call. Robert answers after the second ring. For a moment, neither speaks. Then Daniel asks, "Do you still have that photograph of the old car?" Robert laughs. The lost years remain, but the distance becomes smaller. They meet for breakfast the following week. The friendship cannot return exactly as it was. Their lives have changed. Instead, it becomes something quieter. Fewer meetings, longer pauses, more honesty, less assumption that another opportunity will always come. This is the friendship reality after 60. The circle may shrink because the systems that kept people connected disappeared. Retirement removed the workplace. Moves changed the neighborhood. Children grew up. Health changed routines. Pride delayed the call. Then silence became normal. So is there someone you still think about but have not called? Someone whose name appears in an old photograph? Someone you assumed was busy, distant, or no longer interested? It is possible they moved on. It is also possible they are looking at the same silent phone and making the same assumption about you. Friendship later in life may require more courage, not because the emotions are weaker, but because routine no longer protects them. The first call must be intentional. The invitation must be spoken. Affection can no longer rely on accidental meetings. That may be what makes these friendships so valuable. They continue because both people choose to remain. Friendships are not the only relationships transformed by time. The gap between Generation Jones parents and their adult children may be even harder to explain. They may love one another deeply and still misunderstand each other's language of care, privacy, independence, and responsibility. That is the story we will explore next.